Lopes fans, welcome in. My name is Brennan Williams, and this is Go Lopes Radio. We are coming to you live the day after GCU handles the San Jose Spartans at home, 76-58. A pretty thorough beatdown of a San Jose State team that did not have a lot of guys available. But regardless, GCU moves to 3-1 in Mountain West play. You got to play who's in front of you, and GCU got the job done, and just keep their momentum going after a really big win in Boise. Guys, today's show, a quick recap of the game. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but we've got a few takeaways, and then we're going to focus some time on this trip to Albuquerque, which all of a sudden kind of comes at you and is a really big point in the schedule here where GCU hasn't played a lot of the top teams in the Mountain West yet. They've done a fantastic job, but they're going to get a really good test on Tuesday in one of the most iconic venues in all of college basketball. So really excited for that. We're going to talk a little bit about that game, give a little bit of a scout KYP. But guys, let's talk about last night because, again, we got to start with it. The big storyline was the injuries for San Jose State. I got there and I was counting guys in warmups, 9. And then I think a 10th guy came out really thin and they just did not have the guys. And normally San Jose State, not known as, a Mountain West sort of killer by any means. So you take away their top 3 scores and 4 of their top 5 scores. And I got to be honest, and even Bryce talked about this after the game, like what an incredible level of fight and good job by the coach, Tim Miles, there to, they hung around, right? In the second half, they kind of came back a little bit, but they just did not have the guys necessary to win a Mountain West game. So really tough there. But again, like I said, at the end of the day, GCU, they did their job. And I know you thought I was maybe going to start the show talking about Dennis Evans with his 3 blocks at the end of the game, which was an incredible, 15 seconds in GCU arena. But we've got to talk about the injuries, and we've got to just talk about GCU taking advantage of that and the level of focus. My one key coming into this game was, could GCU focus on the task at hand, right? A lot of their great moments they've had throughout the season, they've been followed up by letdowns. And obviously they go to Boise, they get a good win. We'll see where that win shakes out long-term. I am a little concerned about that after a big beatdown Utah State gave the Broncos. We'll see where their season goes. But, still a great win for the Lopes regardless. But they come back home, not playing a great team. Their team's injured. And my one thing was just focus. Like, is this team focused enough on the task at hand to go 1-0? Not talk about the injuries, not focus on the opponent. That's not a big name and they're at home. Just get the job done. And I thought they did that and did a really good job. So, guys, no crazy earth shattering takes from this game, right? GCU gets the win, pretty comfortable. They're right there depending on, where you got the, whatever number you got, if you got 16.5, 17.5, you're having a good time. Anything more than that, I know it moved quite a bit. You're not going to be as happy, but GCU, they got it done. I don't think San Jose got too close there at the end. I think they pulled within 7 maybe with 6 or 7 minutes left, but GCU made a massive run and kind of blew it open from there. So all around a really good game, but I still think there are some interesting takeaways. My first thing I want to talk about, we've talked about F.A., his development, kind of who he is now, who he could be. And this was one of those games where San Jose State's thin. They don't have the guys down low, and then you take away some of their big guys. This was just a game where I thought GCU had a massive size advantage. GCU has a size advantage most nights in college basketball. Obviously, when you start talking Power 5, maybe it's a little different, but GCU has a ton of size relative. And I thought against this San Jose State team, they could kind of tap into that. And it's funny when you kind of look at some of FA's baskets, I didn't even think they needed to do anything crazy, and they really didn't. It was just like, FA, get down low and put your butt on the guy. We're going to get you the ball. And I thought FA did a good job. Bryce has talked about physicality. FA was really physical. Obviously, again, that stuff kind of just comes with confidence, and it seems to be growing with him. He was sealing his guy so low, like literally almost underneath the basket. And a few times they were able to get him the ball. And it's not even necessarily even like plays. It's just like, hey, FA, get down there, get your butt on their big guy. We're going to get you the ball and lay it up. Obviously, he had some stuff in transition, which kind of, I don't know, guys. You kind of look at some of that stuff and you're like, wow, that could be, something interesting for FA down the road. But, we love the play in transition. But just him willing to put his butt on a guy, get the ball, and finish strong down low. I think that's a massive takeaway, because when you play some of these teams that you have a massive size advantage on, sometimes you don't have to get too crazy. You don't have to do anything too wild. It's just use your size, be disciplined, really good entry passes. We know that's kind of gone to the wayside in college basketball. So many guards trying to do, everything out on the perimeter. Can you get a good entry pass? And I thought, they were able to get him the ball. FA was able to get some easy baskets. And I thought that just set the tone, because GCU, not a great shooting team so far this year. We're seeing some signs, especially from some guys we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But when you can get the ball down low, I know this is kind of like everybody's high school coach that they said, we're going to get the ball inside. It's going to open things up outside. And it sounds ridiculous and cliche, but it totally changes things up when you've got to kind of collapse on a guy like FA, who played so good and so confident, and they were able to get the ball to him. And I think that's a massive takeaway, that when GCU has some of these nights where they have a size advantage, listen, we don't need to do anything too crazy. This is FA. Get your butt down there and just be tougher, be stronger. We're going to get you the ball, and we need you to finish. And I thought he was able to do that against San Jose State. And I think that's a really good kind of sign of things to come. Maybe they can tap into that a little bit, even against the bigger and better teams. But I just thought that's a big takeaway of, hey, FA, we don't need to do anything crazy tonight. We don't have to run any ridiculous sets. You don't have to get out and run in transition. You don't have to handle the ball. You don't have to do all this stuff. It's just get down there. We're going to get you the ball close to the rim, and we need you to finish. And he did a really good job of that. So massive credit to FA. That was one of my takeaways. And then Dusty Stromer, guys. He is shooting 46% from three since the Wyoming game. Obviously, that's quote conference play with the IU Indy game in. 46%, not on a small sample size. And I know he, maybe wasn't a great shooter in his time at Gonzaga, kind of just an average shooter, not a large volume. He struggled when he came to GCU, wasn't making shots. I talked with, I asked Bryce in the postgame, like, what kind of goes into that? And he says it's just rhythm, like rhythm and consistency, staying the course. I asked Dusty about it as well in the postgame. He said the same thing, and it seems to be paying off. He's making some threes. He goes 4 of 6. That changes everything for the Lopes. If you can stretch the floor, and you can just be a threat from out there. They have to guard you. Maybe he can get some of those looks in transition, but 4 for 6 from Dusty from three. And if Dusty can be that guy alongside Caleb Shaw, who can stretch the floor a little bit, give the guys some breathing room, give them some driving lanes, give FA some space, that everything's going to be changed. Now, has to be said, Dusty did kind of get a little banged up. The ankle injury, we're going to talk about kind of some of those injuries in a little bit here, but all in all, I thought he played really good, and he stayed the course. He's making some shots, and that is a really welcome sign if you're a GCU fan. To see FA as a true freshman, his kind of willingness to go and bang down low and get easy baskets, and then when you start seeing Dusty spread the floor a little bit, those are just... that gets you really excited for what you've got coming ahead. If you're a Lopes fan, that changes a lot of things and changes the dynamic. So other guys didn't even, have great shooting nights. You look at a guy like Caleb Shaw, who struggled a little bit, but, Dusty steps up and hits those shots. And so that's a really good sign to see kind of some of those other guys stepping up. Okay, and our final takeaway, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, guys, conference play is underway. And we talked about the San Jose State injuries. We talked about the grind, the travel, the venues, all of it. But the Lopes, they got a little banged up last night. And this is, it stinks, but this is kind of how college basketball works. It's a tough sport. Like, basketball has never been harder. And listen, I know a lot of those 90s guys, and, they talk about this and that. Basketball's never been harder to play. The side to side, the north south that you have to do as a player right now, it is so hard. Obviously there's some perks to it, right? The travel, all this, and the recovery, all of that. And I get it. And that's very true. But this game's really tough. And Nana and Dusty both went down with some really tough twisted ankles. Nana did come in. I thought, he still played great, and he had a great dunk after the ankle injury, but he still kind of, it looked like he was kind of just thinking about it just a little bit. We'll see how that one heals. And then Dusty, obviously, he did media after the game, but he was hobbling a little bit. That one looked really bad. He did not come back in. But he said it was just an ankle sprain. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see where it goes, or not even an ankle sprain. Sorry, a rolled ankle. I don't want to exaggerate there, but we'll see how those look. And Bryce said he's not sure if it'll affect anything for Tuesday, but those are two guys who, are kind of coming around and really playing really good basketball, and would not be great to have those guys miss a little bit of time, but it's tough. But it's Mountain West, and it's a tough league. Really good athletes, really good players, a lot of strength, and that's what's required night in and night out. And Bryce even said it. He was impressed by San Jose State's willingness to have the next man up, and even GCU, they need to have their next man up. They've had a few situations this year, and so they've got to go next man up, and they're going to go to the pit on Tuesday. If one of those guys misses time, it's got to be next man up, and that's kind of how this thing goes. So that was another takeaway, and I still thought it was a pretty physical game from San Jose State. Like, even, they're missing a ton of guys, but they were battling. They fought. Obviously, like I said, Bryce gave them credit, but San Jose State, they didn't roll over. They played really tough with what they had, and that's a credit to them, and just kind of a credit to the Mountain West. So that was another big takeaway. But GCU's 3-1 in conference play. You put your head up. Obviously, GCU, maybe non-conference doesn't meet expectations, but guys, 3-1 in conference play. But the 3-game stretch they've got ahead of them is really tough. They are out on the road against New Mexico in the pit, one of the best venues in all of college basketball. And then they come back home. They got 2 big home games. And I put this message in our message board. GCU fans, no more talking about GCU being this darling, or people need to come see it and they need to see how great it is and experience and all this. No more of that. No more of that. GCU hosts Utah State. They are, I saw they were a 6 seed most recently, probably moving up. They are, you look at the data rankings, they are very, very high. This might be one of the best games you'll ever get at GCU Arena. And they're going to host San Diego State the next Tuesday. No more talking about GCU being this sleeping giant. Get your butt to GCU Arena, be loud, cheer on the Lopes, and make it a home court advantage. We saw what the Utah State student section did in Boise. You've seen videos of how those games are in Utah State. And if they're going to come here, we have got to reciprocate it, because GCU is going to go to play Utah State, and that environment's going to be so tough. And so we got a massive 3-game stretch here. And I think if you're a Lopes fan, listen, I know it's busy here in Phoenix, right? You got Waste Management coming. You've got NFL playoffs. You got all this stuff going on. Guys, get your butt to GCU Arena and cheer on this team and be loud, because this is what we wait all year for. So really tough 3-game stretch for this group, but excited to see how they navigate it. Transition now and talk about Tuesday. GCU heading out to New Mexico, taking on the Lobos in the pit. 7 p.m. Game will be on Mountain West Network. Our great friends over at the Mountain West Network, we're going to hope they are ready to go for that game. But 7 p.m. I was going to be attending in person, providing coverage for you guys. Unfortunately, we had some things happen on the home front, so we'll not be out there. I had to cancel the trip. But we will be dialed here in Phoenix, and really excited for this one, guys. This is, GCU hasn't played, most of those top teams in the Mountain West so far. You play who's in front of you. So that's not, anything bad, but this is a really awesome test on the road against a really good Frisky Lobos team and just a really good basketball coach. Not a coincidence. They bring in Eric Olen at UCSD last year, one of the many Cinderellas in college basketball. They almost took out Michigan last year in the first round. They were really put together an incredible regular season. And guys, they did a rebuild on the fly over there at New Mexico. Obviously, Coach Richard Pitino leaves, goes to Xavier, takes some guys with him, has some guys graduate, some guys enter the transfer portal. Essentially a rebuild for Eric Olen. And guys, they find themselves at 50 in the Ken Palm rankings right now. Really incredible job by them. They've won some big games, and just you got to tip your cap to Coach Olen, the program, and just kind of the floor, like the super high floor that this program has over there. Really good environment. Guys, they got wins over Santa Clara at home and VCU. And then their one conference loss, which funny enough is to Boise State at Boise. Yeah, it's weird because, again, it's been a little bit of a nightmare season for the Broncos, but that is the one game they have won, was against New Mexico. And yeah, so it's been a little bit of an up and down season. They did lose to New Mexico State, which is a game that I know means a lot to people out there in New Mexico. But guys, still a really good team. I would say they've very much exceeded expectations out there in Albuquerque. And so they'll get a really good test. The Lopes will get a really good test on Tuesday. Let's talk about their team profile. We're going to talk about the players here in just a sec, kind of what you can expect, a little bit of a KYP. But when we talk about their team profile, you pull it up on Ken Palm, guys. It's a lot of green, and green means really good. It means you do some stuff really good. We've talked about GCU's defense. I did a thread on the Everything app talking about just how their defense might be trending, how well they've played, and GCU's moved up quite a bit. They're up to 28th in the nation in defense. But who's the team ahead of them at 27? New Mexico Lobos, guys. Really good defensive team. Again, with a bunch of guys that they've brought in. I think they had one returner on their whole roster. And so a massive credit to them. They guard the three well. Listen, they just do it all well. They guard the three well. They guard the paint really well. Offensively, they're no slouch. They're a top 100 kind of nationally offensive team as well. The story for them with Eric Olen, this is just how he operates, guys. It's just efficiency, which is, I know, one of those kind of nerd kind of data gang words, but he's just efficient. They don't turn it over a lot. They get to the free throw line. They get to the rim with a ton of success. They're so disciplined. They know what they want to do. They don't have the ball in their hands wondering, what are we going to do in this possession? Where do we want to go? Whose hands do we want it in? They're just a really good team. They, like I said, they get to the rim super well. I believe they're top 5 in the nation on the average length of their 2-point shots. It's a new data point on Ken Palm, but that just shows that they get to the rim. And yeah, maybe it shows they don't take a lot of long twos, but it shows that they want to get downhill and get to the rim and kind of from there, listen, if they don't score from there, where does that going to take them? And when you get to the rim, we know really good things happen. So yeah, again, just really impressed when you look at their kind of team profile and who they are. I'm really interested to see how GCU's defense, like I've said, is trending. They're playing really well. You've shown at times that they're really disciplined, especially on the perimeter. And we know that with GCU's defense, I've mentioned this so many times, right? They're not put an Anthony Davis in the middle and we're going to funnel everything and block it, right? It's like, hey, we're going to just get to you on the perimeter. Like, we're going to make life really hard. We're going to be physical. Refs, call some fouls. Like, we dare you. Call some fouls. We're going to guard you tough on the perimeter. Get to the basket if you want, but it's going to be really, really tough. And when you look at how well New Mexico gets to the rim and you mix that with GCU's defense that is trending and playing really well, it's a clash, and somebody's going to win that battle, and we're going to see who wins that battle. But I think that's a really interesting matchup to keep your eyes on, guys, to see who wins that. When we talk about the pit, a ton of energy is going to be in there. How about this, guys? One of the toughest environments in the country. In their last 23 conference Mountain West games at the pit, Lobos are 20-3. And I've mentioned this before. I'm not saying this as a slight to the WAC, GCU, or anything that's happened in the past. GCU's done a good job. They've played really well at home. Guys, winning games in the Mountain West is just a different beast. It's just different. I'm sorry. They're 20-3 in their last 23 home conference games. That is a building they do not lose in. I know I talked about Boise State. That's not a building they lose in very often. Well, they lost twice this week. But the Lobos, they just don't lose there, guys. It's a tough place to play. They have a lot of older fans, a lot of legacy fans. They are into it. They know the rhythms of the game, and they make life really tough on every opponent that comes in there. So, again, I can't emphasize enough just how tough of a venue that is. Okay, we talked about the team a little bit. We talked about Eric Olen a little bit. Now it's time to talk about some of the personnel. And, guys, you look through it, and it's kind of fascinating. Like, this is one of those teams, again, just massive credit to Coach Olen. Like, it's a lot bigger, like the sum is a lot bigger than its parts. And I know that saying's out there a lot, but you kind of look through it. It's not like they have a guy who's averaging 18, 19 points a game. Their leading scorer, listen, he's a true freshman from Carlsbad, California, who's a 6'4" guard. And that's, they just got a bunch of guys, a ton of depth, a bunch of guys that are comfortable with the ball in their hand. Like I said earlier, they know what they want to do. People aren't out there, unsure of what they want to do. There's a ton of conviction when they play, and we got to start with him, guys. It's Jake Hall, and he, like I said, he's a freshman, true freshman from Carlsbad, California. He was initially committed to Eric Olen at UCSD. He actually followed him over to New Mexico, and I don't know if the expectations were really big, but guys, he's averaging 14 a game on 46 and 40 from the field, so 46 in general from the field and 40 from three. Scored from everywhere, 6'4", 200 pounds, and he's just skilled. Like, there's no other way around it. One thing I want to call out with him is he's kind of a little bit of a heat check guy. I know he's averaging 14 points a game, but he can erupt. He's had some big games this year, and he is not scared to shoot the ball. You'd think a true freshman, coming into kind of a new rebuilt program. He's going to kind of feel his way around what's going on here. Like when he's hot, guys, he's getting shots up. Here's some of his big games. 24 against VCU on 9 of 15 from the field. He had 20 against Nebraska, who, Nebraska ball is blowing up right now. They might be a 1 seed this year. They did lose, but he had 20 against them. He shot it a million times. He just had 24 against Air Force. Like, this is a guy who is willing and is comfortable to take shots as a true freshman and lead this team. And yeah, it's really, I don't know, guys, it's really impressive. Like, I don't know what GCU's going to do to kind of disrupt him. I thought through this after I kind of watched some of the film. I think I moved away from just a ton of length on him. And I think what I went with was the idea of a ton of size and just pestering him. Length usually is super helpful. Obviously, always you think of a guy like Jaden Henley and how disruptive he can be on defense. I think for a guy like him, I actually think it's going to be more size. I think like how much can you just like bump him in screens? How much can you just make life really hard for him to catch? How much can you, let's just say he wants to catch at the 3-point line, right? He's coming off a screen. How much can you fight through that screen? And instead of letting him come off and catch the ball at the 3-point line and then attack downhill, can you maybe force him out? And when he comes off that screen, you're just physical with him. And again, it's not foul, but you're just kind of pushing him a little bit. And can you make him catch at 25, 28 feet? Can you get him farther from the basket? I think physicality, especially as a freshman, is going to be a lot more helpful than just using length. Length is always good. GCU obviously has a ton of options that they can go to guard him, but I expect to see a ton of size. I mean, you talk about a guy like Brian Moore Jr. I know offensively hasn't been great. A total pit bull, like just a tough kid. He's going to be a little undersized if he guards him, but can Brian Moore just go in there and just be an absolute tornado and make life really hard for him? And then can you bring in a guy like Dusty Stromer who has a little bit of length, and then Henley? They've got a ton of options, but I expect them to be really, really physical with him. I think you kind of look at it and you say, you got to draw a line in the sand. What he's done has been really impressive, but he's a true freshman. Can you get in there? It's a conference play. This is a grind. Can you get in there and just rough him up a little bit? And again, I'm not saying be like over physical, but can you just make life really hard? I think it's one of those things where, if you're a 5th, 6th year guy, like a Brian Moore Jr., like, hey man, you get the opportunity. Like, this guy's a true freshman. Get in there and just make life hell for him. And I think size and strength is going to work a lot more with him. We'll see again who ends up guarding him, but GCU has a ton of options. They did such a good job on Pasquarelli, who's a really good shooter. He's more of a volume shooter than Jake Hall is, but man, he can really, he's a really good player. I really just got to give credit to him on, again, just being a true freshman and how impressive he's been this year. 3 rebounds, a little over 1 assist. So it's not like he's out there kind of making plays, getting other guys involved. Like, he's out there to score and shoot the ball. He hasn't turned the ball over a ton. So really impressive freshman campaign. I expect a lot of strength and size to be used against him to make him uncomfortable. Next up is Dayton Albury. We talked about him in the preseason. We were kind of high on him over here at Go Lopes Radio when we did our Mountain West week. He comes over from Utah State. He gets a little bit of the car keys. And in my opinion, he's been really good for them. So he's a little bit more of kind of a smaller guard. He wants to get other guys involved. He's not necessarily this selfish guard who wants to get up a million shots, but he's really important because we talked about efficiency with Eric Olen and his teams and what this Lobo team is. Dayton Albury kind of provides that. He's 12 points a game, but guys, he's averaging 4 assists a game. He's only playing 24 minutes. So, if he was playing 30, 32 minutes, he'd be averaging a lot more. I mean, he'd be maybe like a 14 and like 7 sort of guy. I mean, he could, you just look at the raw stats and he's been really impressive. And when he's on the floor, he's going to provide kind of that safe haven for Coach Eric Olen. Get the ball in his hands and he can create some offense. Like, where you can go. I've mentioned it a few times, the decisiveness. And Dayton Albury is totally that sort of guy. He's a key piece. And again, not a guy who's, going to completely flip the game and go for 20, 24 on you, but he's a guy who's going to control the game by getting guys the ball in the right spots. And when he sees his opportunity, he's going to be more than comfortable shooting the ball. Hasn't been efficient, so I'm not going to say he's this, picture perfect image of efficiency, but he's a guy where, he wants to get other guys the ball in the spots they want it. You think I'm going to end with the true freshman from Croatia who's been awesome for the Lobos. But the last guy I actually want to talk about is a local product. When I say local, I say Arizona. Uriah Tenet from Prescott. He kind of blew up a little bit in his final summer. He's a smaller guy, but he can, kind of shocking. I think he won their dunk contest for the Lobos. I mean, he can really get up there, and he's been a little bit of a spark plug off the bench for them. True freshman, was also committed to Eric Olen at UCSD, and I was kind of unsure how much he'd contribute, but he's a guy that just comes in and he just gets a green light. And again, not another, efficient guy necessarily. He's kind of one of their guys who zags a little bit on kind of the Eric Olen way, but he's an instant offense guy. He's a smaller guy, not big, and he's a true freshman. And so he's another guy where I think the Lopes can be a little bit physical with him, make him uncomfortable, not let him get in a rhythm. He's going to come off the bench. He's just going to be looking to score. That's all he's there to do. And I'm wondering, again, this is probably looking too much into it, but he's a Prescott guy. Does he feel a little bit overlooked by GCU? Like, hey, maybe I should have been a Lope and you didn't even really look at me a ton, but I'm going to go be a Lobo. Is he going to be motivated and excited for that game? I don't know. We'll kind of see what that looks like and if he can make a real impact on this game. He's had some moments, provided some flashes, and if you're an opposing team, you don't want to be on the downside of one of his flashes because he's another guy who can get it going in a hurry. So, guys, that's it for kind of our KYP. We went over a few of the guys on a few of the players for the Lobos. Went over the team profile, Coach Eric Olen, the way he wants to play. This is a big test for the Lopes. And, I mentioned the schedule they've got coming up. Home against Utah State, the best team in the league, one of the best teams on the whole West Coast. And then they come home for San Diego State. I know, Lopes fans, GCU's had success against them in the past, but this is a new year. This is Mountain West Conference play. So, it's a different era, and one game at a time. No, the Lopes take on the Lobos. They travel to the Pit on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain West Network. This should be a linear game. Like, without a doubt, this should be a linear game. Wish they could flex it, but this is kind of the cards they've been dealt. So excited to tune in. Our friends over at the Mountain West Network are going to get this dialed. I have a good feeling, but guys, this is what we like. We talked about this. I mentioned earlier, we wait all summer for this. Like, no more waiting and talking about we're excited for this game or this game. Like, this is what we wait for. The Lopes are going to the Pit to take on the Lobos. And much like they did to Boise, they can run in there, get a win, and then get their butts back home for one of the biggest games, honestly, in GCU history against Utah State. So really excited for this one. Excited how the Lopes are playing, how they've been trending recently, and we'll see that on display Tuesday against the Lobos. So cheers.